You don't have to keep explaining your trauma to people who refuse to listen. A word on why you can stop auditioning for compassion. The grand performance. Explain, justify, re-explain, perhaps with diagrams this time, emotional footnotes, and a heart held out like an offering, all in the hopes that someone might finally understand your pain. Do you find yourself rehearsing this romantic tragedy on repeat, waiting for the plot twist? I just want them to get it. Maybe if I explain it differently, they'll finally understand. They didn't mean to be dismissive. They just don't know what I've been through. Dear friends, you are not a courtroom defendant. You are not on trial for your pain. And if someone has made it clear that they have no interest in understanding you, then no amount of emotional PowerPoint presentations will move them. I'm Dylan Moore, author, cognitive behavior specialist, and devoted advocate for women's empowerment and men's emotional healing. In this discourse, let's unveil transformative strategies to restore your balance, reclaim your power, and anchor you in unshakable strength. Together, let's unravel the absurd social expectations that have so long kept so many trapped in a labyrinth of self-imposed chaos. Let's expose inherited beliefs that gaslight us into self-doubt. Now, let's address why you keep explaining yourself to people who just aren't listening. If you keep trying to earn compassion from those committed to misunderstanding you, please consider the following. You were taught that love is something you have to earn. So now you treat emotional safety like a sales pitch. You believe that if someone doesn't understand your trauma, it means you failed to explain it properly. You haven't. You think if you're vulnerable enough, they'll eventually offer you empathy. But darling, empathy requires willingness, not evidence. You confuse being available with being accessible. Not everyone who hears your words is ready to receive your truth. You've been conditioned to apologize for being complex, when in reality, you're just being emotionally layered, not a liability. Clinical insight, repetition, compulsion, and fawn response. Now, from a therapeutic lens, this behavior is often a blend of repetition, compulsion, trying to resolve old wounds by recreating similar dynamics, and the fawn response, over-explaining and people-pleasing as a trauma survival tactic. It's the nervous system's desperate attempt to secure connection. And at the cost of what? Your self-worth? When you keep explaining your pain to someone who refuses to honor it, you're not opening a dialogue. You're reenacting a familiar form of emotional abandonment. Now, here's what you sacrifice by over-explaining your pain, your dignity. You end up pleading for the bare minimum to be heard. Your energy. You spend emotional bandwidth convincing someone who's already decided not to care. Your healing. You anchor your growth to someone else's understanding when it was never their job to validate it. Your boundaries, because constant explaining quickly becomes self-erasure. Now, let's reclaim your narrative with dignity, of course. Say it once. Let your story be spoken in truth, and then stop performing it for those who didn't clap the first time. Remind yourself, understanding is a privilege, not an entitlement. Not everyone deserves your vulnerability. Stop trying to enroll people in your healing. They weren't there for your wounds. They don't get to co-sign the recovery. Choose discernment over disclosure. Emotional intimacy should be earned, not handed out like party favors. Let your peace be louder than your explanations, because silence, when rooted in self-respect, is the most commanding sound of all. Why this works according to actual therapy? Okay, in cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, the goal is to challenge the distorted core beliefs that drive our compulsive need for external validation. By breaking the cycle of explaining your trauma to the wrong audience, you begin retraining your nervous system to recognize that you are enough without convincing anyone else of it. This isn't about closing your heart. It's about fortifying your energy. When you no longer outsource your healing to the understanding of others, you create emotional boundaries that allow for genuine safety, not performance connection. CBT emphasizes self-validation, boundary setting, and cognitive restructuring to reduce emotional reactivity and restore a sense of inner safety. And now, a most decadent realization. If they wanted to understand you, they would have. If they cared to hear you, they'd have made space. You're not here to audition for someone else's empathy, nor are you required to explain your pain to those who treat you like an inconvenience. Let us be scandalously clear. Your trauma does not need a jury. It needs a sanctuary. So tell me, who have you been trying to convince? And more importantly, what might you reclaim if you stopped? Drop a like or comment below, and let's normalize protecting your story from those who only want the headline. Together we rise. Together we thrive. Let's rise fierce into a new life of personal power and freedom.